Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Are the uprisings in the Middle East a good thing, or are they problematic? Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Shawn Akers, the vice president of Middle Eastern Affairs for Liberty Counsel. Shawn, we've been talking about Israel, and I want to invite people to come to Israel with our Liberty Ambassador Council program. Our next trip currently is May 18 through 27, 2013. People can go to our website at lc.org for more information. But Israel is an amazing place. We're going to be talking about it today with regards to what's going on in the Middle East with the so-called Arab Spring and what's happening in Syria and Lebanon and Egypt, and may ultimately spill over sometime possibly to Jordan, but certainly in those surrounding countries. There's this Arab Spring, so-called, or this revolution that's taking place. And there's some interesting things that happen with revolutions in general. Revolutions in general, and certainly this applies to the Middle East, whenever you have a country that goes through revolution, they are warrior-like. Yes. And typically after they go through a revolution and they throw off their government and they start a new government, what do? They engage in war. Why? Because they're used to the revolutionary warrior that ultimately got them to throw off their government and start again. So typically through history, whenever you have a revolution that takes place like that, you have sometimes, most frequently shortly thereafter, that country also engaging in a subsequent war once it is reconstituted as a government. That poses significant concerns for what's taking place in the Middle East.
Absolutely, Matt. Anytime that you've got changes of power, powerful individuals and powerful concepts try to come together to bring about a new power structure, and that you're seeing that go on all throughout the Middle East. And whether it is a zeitgeist, an age of revolution in the Middle East, or whether these things are being organized by groups that would like to see a more organized Islamic unity through the area, one way or the other, what we see there is the potential for great contrast and war for a long time to come. But there's also, Matt, the potential for people to adopt new ideas in those areas that could help them. And whether that's likely or not, the fact is you can look right across the border. It's such a contrast, Matt, when you go to the state of Israel, and you can see, as much as Israel's criticized by the rest of the world, you have to ask yourself which you would be more comfortable building a business in or taking your family to visit, Beirut or Jerusalem. If you'd like to run the contrast, I mean, it's a pretty easy one. The fact is that even the people of those surrounding areas have more freedom within the borders of the state of Israel than many of them do in their own countries.
Well, and in fact, if you look at Israel's economy, that's an entirely different program that we can actually dedicate to. There's a book called Startup Nation that is a very fascinating overview of some of the economic amazing developments in Israel. If you look at Israel with regards to world economies and you put them on graphs, and I know because I just looked at those because I serve on the board of trustees for the Timothy Plan, and we launched our 12th mutual fund, which is the Israel Common Values Fund, and it invests in companies in Israel. And so we looked at all the economic graphs of all the major countries around the world, and of course the recession hit and you had a downward drop severely for all the countries, except for Israel. You had a small little blip and it went right back up. It is a fascinating discussion just regards the economy. And the reason why is because it is the only country in the Middle East that really provides some of those freedoms, both economically and otherwise. All of the other countries are more autocratic. Some of those that have been overturned, like Libya and Egypt, Syria is going through that revolution right now. what's bubbling up from the bottom are revolutionary warrior ideas that are fueled by primarily Islamic radical ideas and ideology. That does not bode well for Israel, and it doesn't bode well for the United States or other Western values.
No, it doesn't, because even in Israel, Matt, even in Israel, you're watching an interesting policy move where the United States, for instance, has moved closer and closer to a European-style socialism where we want more and more regulation of the economy and more regulation of society. Israel has steadily moved back from that, creating more privatization and taking their hands increasingly off of the economy. And what you're seeing is that in a world where there's great economic turmoil, Israel is one of the few economies that's trending up while everybody else is trending down. Now, for those nations that are surrounding it, they're in a tough situation, Matt. There's no doubt about it, because the major powers, and I mean brute force power, I mean military power, that are in those surrounding nations are Islamic-driven, both from the top and from the bottom, whether it is Hamas and Hezbollah being funded from Iran, or whether it is from the top, the governments that are attempting to hold power. You're still looking at largely autocratic ideas of forcing people into a situation, while what you would hope is that people could look across the border and say, you know what, this idea of liberty actually works.
The problem, though, the reason why is because it's driven by an Islamic fundamentalism.
That's correct.
And when you look at that, there is no exchange to say, well, they're doing it better over there. In fact, they're the enemy in the Islamic ideology. And in fact, just like the Palestinian Authority does not think that Israel has any right to exist. Iran does not believe Israel has any right to exist. That's why we can't allow Iran to become a nuclear power, because unlike mutually assured destruction, or MAD, during the Reagan administration, where the United States had nuclear weapons and the Soviet Union had nuclear weapons, but each one of them had some respect for life. And so they realized that if one puts the button for the nuclear to go to the other one, then the other one would do the same thing, and we'd have mutually assured destruction. We would ultimately annihilate ourselves. Therefore, that was the restraint for not launching nuclear weapons against each other. But within the Islamic regimes, particularly, say, for example, Iran, there is no restraint to that. If they got a nuclear weapon, they would launch it, because they are not someone who respects life. They would rather give themselves as a martyr and ultimately bring on the 12th Imam and the end of the world, and they would do that by bringing in the nuclear holocaust. So the problems that you see happening over there are very ideological, and I don't think our administration, I don't think President George W. Bush and the administration got it. I think they completely missed the boat with regards to the Islamic ideology, and certainly this administration doesn't get it either.
You know, but you have to wonder why, Matt, because one of the first rules of foreign policy is that when somebody threatens you, whether you think it's serious or not, you take it seriously. And we know, for instance, that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad from Iran literally did the equivalent of a feasibility study to find out if, in a first strike scenario from Iran, how much of Iran would survive. And they're literally seeing what would be left to write in the history books on a first strike scenario. So we have to take those things seriously. I think you're absolutely right that our administrations, both Democratic and Republican so far, have not taken this, have not understood the eschatology behind Islamic
and this current
fundamentalism.
administration is even worse, because it is wanting to remove any kind of idea of Islamic radicalism, and you can't understand the Middle East without understanding that. One of the things, just briefly, that we need to be concerned about and also pray about is when you have these destabilizations in Egypt and, say, for example, Syria. Egypt and Syria, they have other major weaponry, including biological weapons. And so what we have seen already is weapons from Egypt have wound up in Gaza in the hands of the Palestinian Authority, which ultimately does not believe Israel has a right to exist. So we need to pray for Israel, and we need to have a very strong policy in the United States to stand with Israel. Join us in Israel May 18 through 27 with our Liberty Ambassador Counsel program, 2013. You can go to Liberty Counsel's website for more information. We'll post that very soon. And you can also call 1-800-671-1776. You know, one of the things that has been a fascinating study is the Ten Commandments, which obviously originated from the Israelite nation, and where God gave that to the Israelites. This is a booklet called The 10 Commandments in American Law and Government. I would like for you to get that and understand the impact that the 10 Commandments and our Judeo-Christian values have had here in America. Go to lc.org for more information.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.